The dedicated life. O man of earth, canst thou say I'm ready, God? I dedicated my life to thee. Use my life as thou wouldst see. A benefit that it shall be to my fellow man, may my eyes see for thee. The pain expressed in the urchin's face, distress upon the wayward's brow. Use my feet, O Father God, that I may walk in the paths on earth as thou wouldst have me walk, that I may carry thy message of light, thy message of life, to man who in darkness dwells. Use my hands, O Father God, to reach to them who need thy help, to bestow thy blessings and to receive only that, O Lord of hosts, only that which comes from thee. Take my life and let it be dedicated unto thee. Chapter 1. The Ancient Mystical White Brotherhood after the Order of Melchizedek. There's but one race, the human race. There's but one man, God-man. There's but one life, God-life. There's but one mind, God-mind. Ever since man has been, the ancient mystical white brotherhood after the order of Melchizedek has been. It is spiritual as God is spiritual. It is birthless, ageless, and deathless as God is birthless, ageless, and deathless. It is not a mundane organization having no earthly lodges nor any material buildings or churches made of brick, steel, or stone. It is not founded on any man-made dogma, creed, or ritual. It is free from any influence or persuasion, and its authority and power come from the eternal divine source of pure being. The word Melchizedek is the only one all-inclusive word for the brotherhood of man. In Hebrew, it is a combination of two words. Melchi, in Hebrew, is a combination of two words. Melchi meaning king, and Zedek meaning righteousness. The right use of consciousness in all our mental faculties. Hebrews 7, 1-3. Members of the ancient mystical white brotherhood, after the order of Melchizedek, are myriad in number and are invisible to the human eye. They are very high spiritual beings from many planets of the universe, including this planet Earth. These highly evolved great ones are of superior character, extremely wise, and express divine intelligence beyond our mortal comprehension. They always work together as one. There are many ways they use to convey their instruction when it is necessary to use the vibration of sound. They're able to speak the language of any race or nation that they are contacting and with whom they are working. They work mainly from the exalted supernatural planes of divine intelligence. They're aware at all times what is transpiring on our earth and are in constant communication on the inner planes of life with other members of the order and of those of the subordinate planes of the brotherhood. Nothing is hidden from them. They're always aware of what is taking place and read the motives of mankind behind the actions even before they have taken place. Members of the White Brotherhood who have risen to the Melchizedek plane are referred to as sons of God. In very ancient times, the first governors of nations and races were Melchizedek priests and kings. They were referred to as having divine authority. They were sent by the high principle of life, the I Am, to perform these duties to establish moral law and order for the protection and benefit of humanity. These members were always noble, spiritual entities and were regarded as possessing the divine authority to so rule. Their decisions were never questioned because their decisions and judgments were always just. There are many degrees, planes, or levels in the White Brotherhood. In the category of learning for souls seeking illumination, there are also many levels, as in our schools of the mundane or earthly schools. We have the lower grades and the higher grades of education, such as high school, colleges, and universities. Likewise, the ancient White Brotherhood have these various levels of advancement on the inner planes of consciousness. As the consciousness is expanded, its growth covers unlimited fields of operation that are vast in scope and dimension. Teachers on one plane of consciousness receive their instructions from those of a higher plane of greater light and divine wisdom. This limitless spiral of ascension goes on, ever upward, outward, into the vastness of eternal light. For there is no end to truth and light. Never will there be an end, for the end is ever the beginning. Within the White Brotherhood, the plane referred to as after the order of Melchizedek is the highest plane that humanity is able mortally to understand. On this plane, members know, understand, and use all the immutable laws of life, love, and creation righteously so. Its members are assigned to teach and enlighten the leaders of earth, seers, prophets, kings, presidents, educators, philosophers, etc. They always guide through inspiration and teach and counsel those leaders in key positions with the purest of spiritual intelligence and divine wisdom, always pointing to the great eternal purposes of humanity's cyclic movements. The assistance they give helps those who seek their aid and accomplishes the greatest spiritual advancement for humankind. Within the White Brotherhood, there's a council which is composed of master teachers of all eras of time. Within this body of exalted illumined beings, many decisions are formulated. As the council looks beyond the present into that which man of earth calls the future, the decisions made serve the greatest good for the greatest need of mankind, soul growth. Quite frequently, when progress seems the most retarded to human reasoning, the council, seeing the horizon far beyond that which is known or visible to mortal sight, knows that this is the time when the greatest spiritual action is taking place within the affairs of men. This is why the council is very careful in making selections of men or women for key positions of trust. Only those are selected who have discharged all their karmic indebtedness to anyone or any race. Thus, they are not in bondage to any man on earth and are beyond the corruption of mortal thinking or mortal influence and persuasion. Those who qualify are always just, honorable, stand on principle, and have no fear of anything. They are properly trained and equipped with talents necessary for their duties. This training might not be visible on the surface, for it was accomplished on the inner planes of life. They are ready for the service to be rendered. They are those with whom the council can work from the unseen side of life through inspiration within the realms of spiritual consciousness. They are those who are placed in vital key positions. Wherever the voice of one of the great ones is heard, through any avenue, the values of life take on a new meaning and direction. Thus, man of earth is able to see and understand the outcome of certain actions taken whenever the divine guidance of the council is followed in preference to that of mortal reasoning. Its ultimate conclusions always contribute to the advancement of man's moral character and spiritual stature, for he has gained greater spiritual insight. The teaching of these great divine teachers has been known for thousands of years. The most ancient records reveal the presence of these great ones in old Chaldean times, in Egypt and in Persia. The records reveal that they're always referred to as the brotherhood of mankind. They foretold that many of their order would come, and they spoke of a master of masters who would enlighten humanity to a far greater degree than those who preceded him. He would be a high priest after the order of Melchizedek. They prophesied that he too would be born of a woman as other great ones before him. He, as they, would be born under spiritual, mystical circumstances. His birth, life, and purpose would be announced by the angelic heavenly hosts. All members of this high ancient mystical white brotherhood are no longer inhabitants of a physical habiliment. The vehicles these divine teachers used were of no earthly forms, but were of etheric bodies. Therefore, they were always referred to in our sacred books and holy writs as angels or heavenly hosts. They always radiated such tremendous lines of force and power, even though they are invisible to the human eye, that their influence and presence was felt unmistakably. Only those of inherent sensitivity were able to discern their presence. Those of lesser perception or sensitivity were unable to see or feel them. All master teachers and great initiates are in this Melchizedek council. It is an eternal priesthood, but is not after any man-made organization. This eternal priesthood is after the order of Melchizedek, which is birthless, ageless, and deathless. Hebrews 6 and 7. Any soul that was part of this earth plane and is in its experiences in which reached this highest plane of consciousness called the Melchizedek order has reached it through a dedicated life of unselfish service to God during many incarnations, asking no praise, power, recognition, but having the inner awareness of the all-pervading, immutable principles of pure being, the Christ consciousness, the God mind, is self-realized and established. That soul, while on earth, ruled his or her life from the place of the Most High in righteousness. The conscious and subconscious activities were geared to peace, love, and wisdom. That soul let the superconscious mind or divine mind flow unobstructed in completeness. In other words, there was a complete surrender to God's will, the will of God only, the will of good only. This is the order that Jesus belonged to and ruled in as Christ Jesus, the high priest forever, after the order of Melchizedek, Hebrews 10:16. The Melchizedek Council is a most high truth-revealing tribunal. Their services and teachings are always as unto the one eternal God. knowing that God's will is the only perfect will. Any assignment that is given to a member or teacher on a slightly lower plane of the Great White Brotherhood always has a definite spiritual purpose. The reasons for this are to aid the various races of humanity, raise their conscious level, and to develop their perceptions of their own divine inherent nature. All master teachers of the Melchizedek order have pointed to the fact that man is a triune being. Following the triune principle of life, first, man is spirit, one with life, since there is no separation in God. Second, man is a soul, in which God mind is individualized. Third, man has a house of clay, a vehicle in which he operates, a body composed of matter, which he uses to serve God, and which he needs to prove the principles of life as a God-man. There are many fine spiritual teachers who are working on the lower levels of the White Brotherhood, who are serving the great ones to inspire others to point the way of service toward the higher regions of work. Members of the Brotherhood who are on the earth plane and who now serve on the upper levels of authority know the immutable laws of the universe. They too have passed every test in life. Having paid all indebtedness of karma of the previous unregenerated lives, they steadfastly and sincerely kept their standards high, never compromising on any principles of life and truth. Their lives were dedicated to pure, unselfish service and beheld all life as God life. It is thus they kept the whiteness of their soul and qualified to be admitted to the higher levels or order the ancient mystical White Brotherhood. No one can ever be a member of the White Brotherhood who deliberately uses any of the mutable laws for prestige or power, for personal gain or advancement, who exploits any man on earth unfairly and unjustly, who uses deception in any form to misrepresent or confuse. If it is not of God, it is not spiritual. Therefore, it is not of the White Brotherhood. All master teachers of old, including those you are more familiar with, such as Abraham, Amenhotep of Egypt, Gautama Buddha, Confucius, Krishna, Enoch, Daniel, Jesus, Zoroaster, Pythagoras, Plato, Aristotle, and many other myriad teachers of old, as well as many of more recent times, were members of the White Brotherhood and shall continue to be so forever. Who tenanted a body first? What was it that tenanted a body of these wonderful teachers? It was the I am, which is the Christ light or Christ power of God. It has always been and shall always be the I am, or the Christ light of God, which spoke in every teacher who carried the torch of truth, even though it has been unrecognized by those who heard them. It shall continue to ever be that I am, the Christ light of God, speaking in all teachers of the living God, yesterday, today, and in the future. Just as Abraham was the Christ light of God to his people, and the teacher Confucius was the Christ light of God to his people, Zoroaster was the Christ light of God to his people, even as Gautama Buddha of India and Jesus of Nazareth were each the Christ light of God to their people in their time. The presiding elders of the White Brotherhood are the Master Jesus and the beloved Gautama Buddha. They are presiding elders because they are the supreme teachers in the service of the great cosmic Father. There is but one man, God-man. Let no man of earth in his limited understanding tell you otherwise. For he or she who so attempts to do is speaking in error, contrary to truth. All are in the one, and the one is eternally in all one. All great spiritual teachers recognize this true eternal principle of the brotherhood of man. The completeness of creation in the vastness of life, life is complete. However, man must first become aware of this completeness, and this he will do when he ascends in consciousness enough to comprehend the vastness of his own divinity. Very few of those who heard the messages fully understood the meaning, nor were they able to grasp the meaning of the unity of the human race in the spiritual realms. These great initiates and sages are still continuing to teach in the bright light of the oversoul of the universe, known to man of earth as God. You understand there's nothing impossible for the master teachers or the council members to accomplish. They are those who have finished their travail upon the mundane sphere of life. However, therefore, having no further desires, there's no necessity to return in physical habiliment or earthly form. This is because they are now in the field of activity where they are of far greater service in the Father's realm and can reach more people through the vibratory power of love and the constructive energy forces of their good will and spiritual guidance. There are many subordinate teachers on the lower planes or regions of the Great White Brotherhood. These teachers are not to be confused with those of Melchizedek realm. These subordinate teachers are not immediately affiliated with the inner council of the Melchizedek realm, but receive their instructions from the outer council. They are not to be held in lesser regard. This is to be understood and respected very clearly. They are to be regarded in their full spiritual importance, as they receive their instructions for their assigned duties from those of the outer council, who have in turn received their information from the inner council. These subordinate teachers are entirely devoted to reaching others in love, and are to be looked upon as those in the earthly schools, teachers teaching babes in their various degrees of unfoldment in the matter of the inner life of the soul. All mankind must be reached in love, all the loved of God, and are our equals in spiritual inheritance. All must be awakened to the immutable laws that govern them. There lies the work for the laborers of the field, so that they all may claim their eternal inheritance when they have merited through acceptance and cooperation. We quite often hear the statement made by misinformed individuals on the mundane sphere of life that it is impossible for the higher teachers to penetrate the denser forms of matter. There is no matter too dense for any great teacher to penetrate. The only dense form of matter which the master's lesson or instructions do not penetrate is man's thinking. This is stated in love and not in any measure of destructive criticism. It is only when man rejects the light of truth, for there is no greater blindness than the blindness of one who will not see. Why does the White Brotherhood have so many subordinate teachers? All must grow, and it is for that reason some of the instructions are passed on to the more recently arrived souls from the earth plane who have expressed a desire to become teachers, to guide others of the earth plane. Loved ones they have left behind to help them understand the true light of God. Thus, they too may enjoy the opportunity of soul growth and in this manner prepare themselves while they are in the astral embodiment, waiting for their return to the earth in mundane life. There, they will again tend in the physical body. Many of these teachers, through their soul's desire for greater illumination, long to have the experience of direct contact with the spiritual realms, the inner life. They are collaborators with the White Brotherhood. This can only come about when they have given recognition to the vast spiritual teachings of the council members of ancient age. Through the recognition of the eternal truths and light of these teachings, these subordinate teachers progressed in their wisdom and involvement, and eventually attained a mastership in their own right. When the members of the ancient mystical White Brotherhood dwelt among men of earth in a physical body, it was their desire to teach man of earth his true relationship to and with God, which is spiritual. When a member found at the time of his leaving the body after his transition that his work was still unaccomplished, he or she continued on the inner planes of life until they had some avenue to accomplish this unfinished business. They would work from the unseen side of life through the process of inspiration, directed to a dedicated, open-minded soul free of selfish motives, a willing physical collaborator who would reach and influence those who needed help. It has been erroneously said that this opening of oneself to be used as a channel could lead to obsession by some astral, earthbound soul. He who is dedicated to God, spiritual and pure in consciousness, with unselfish motives in his thinking, has nothing to fear of any obsession or possession. The Brotherhood will not stand idly by and see this happen. There is nothing to fear of the discarnate soul. It is the soul still incarnate in the flesh that needs to be guarded against. Like attracts like. The magnet of love attracts love. The forces of hatred and contempt attract destruction in a human being. By focusing his attention to it consciously or unconsciously, according to their desire and their free will, it will be done. These great masters and sages of old recognize man's every good deed, kindly act, and loving word here in this material world. This is particularly true of those who have accepted the beneficence of the illumined, the appointed and anointed teachers and their teachings of the principles of life. The time has come for seekers of the truth of being to step out of the swaddling clothes of old, worn out concepts and theologies full of fear and superstitions, which have held them in bondage of fear of the eternal. Man must know that he is free in the fullness of God and is given free will to choose the path in which he wishes to gather the results of accumulated experiences needed to gain wisdom. He must also ever be mindful that In this freedom, he is always fully responsible for his choice to himself, his fellow man, as well as to the Creator, and that no one has the right to deny or destroy another's right to that same freedom. Injustice in any capacity is no man's right. One of the first steps in soul growth is the disciplining of the emotional nature of man. Disciplining means learning by the application of truths learned through meditation, prayers, doing, living, controlling your actions and reactions. These lead to the purification of not only the physical centers of the body, but the etheric centers. Man is full of many complexes, attitudes, and desires based on intellectual reasoning. By continuing his dedication, he is led until the purification of the centers is accomplished, and they are as lighted candles on the altar of God. Many of these souls are quite frequently unnoticed among men of earth. They could be friends, co-workers, neighbors, or loved ones close by who are being prepared for some greater service in the Father's house. We have heard the term crashing or storming the gates of heaven. There is no climbing over the wall or crashing of the gate, for the gate opens only to him who has gone through the purification and dedication of his life. Having walked the path of service and love, intellectual knowledge, wishes, and desires alone will not do it. The spiral of love and service is an ascending spiral, ever penetrating level after level, with both the inner and outer awareness of the all-pervading essence of pure being. In modern understanding, the passing through the gate is a breakthrough in consciousness. The initiation to higher levels is intelligence and spiritual perception. There's only one ascension, and that is the ascension in consciousness. When the soul comprehends the true purposes of life, the controlling principles, the divine plan of unfoldment, it is illumined or crested. The God mind has taken full control, and as Paul said, let that mind be in you, which was in Christ Jesus. Thus, man becomes a member of the Great White Brotherhood with an opportunity for higher growth under the Melchizedek order. He is not aware of his union with God, his true selfhood in the white light of God, a radiant sun. And as a son of God, he is immersed, submerged in the pure presence of the great oversoul of life, which we call God. Man never ceases to serve. He shall use the creative laws of the universe to still troubled water, to enlighten confused thinking, heal the discomfort of broken bodies, remove obstacles to spiritual growth. He shall use these laws lovingly and constructively always. Never, never does he use them to retard anyone for selfish reasons or gain. Never for power, position, or reward. And at all times gives man the opportunity to redeem himself for his erroneous actions. There are isolated instances when it becomes necessary for members of the council, the great initiates, to return to the earth plane of life and assume a body of flesh to complete special divine assignments left undone by others. Quite frequently, that of collaborator of the brotherhood, they do this when it is a vital matter. For eons of time, many master teachers have been known to make unprecedented appearances. Often they arrive at unexpected places unannounced and depart in the same manner. The body, which is a member, frequently bears the resemblance of the last personality which the member used while on earth. The body is not always of the dense physical form, but rather an etheric body having the semblance of an earthly body. The body may appear at will and can be shed at will. It can seemingly disappear from human sight only to make a reappearance when it is needed. Each appears to a collaborator or a teacher with whom he can work, giving him the spiritual insight, aid, and assistance in some very outstanding endeavor for the benefit of humankind. Members of the White Brotherhood never announce their true identity to anyone. They never speak of their particular service which they render, nor do they reveal what their mission is. Silence and humility is ever their watchword, and their silent influence is felt by all whom they contact personally, as well as those fortunate enough to come into the radiance of their spiritual auric vehicle. The members of this White Brotherhood embrace all mankind regardless of race, color, or creed. However, they do not accept anyone as a teacher or a collaborator who is allied with those who conform to that which is contrary to truth, contrary to God's law. This is found in some earthly organizations who claim an affiliation, yet their precepts and very actions are contrary to God's laws of being. Many of the members of the White Brotherhood walk the earth sphere of life as we do now. They too have tasted of the bitter cup. As the great Gautama Buddha, the illumined one, also as Confucius, the appointed one, and our beloved Jesus of Nazareth, the anointed one, Many of the collaborators who are now about the Father's business also have tasted of the sweet and bitter cup. Therefore, life is no longer a mystery to them. They have learned to be tolerant, patient, and now understand the reason for many things and experiences. Ecclesiastes 7:25. God asks for no sacrifice. Mercy is the plea of God in the council. Mercy was the plea of all great teachers of their time, and they still continue to teach mercy and love. As the Nazarene says, I ask not for sacrifice, I ask but for mercy. God is love, and he who loveth is born of God. To be born, the second birth, is to be sustained, carried by grace, fed by inspiration, led by guidance, and inspired by divine spirit. While man lives in his physical body, he is often given over to strange notions. This is the so-called denser side of matter. Man never becomes perfectly free from the astral shell, which he builds for himself out of every thought, word, and deed while he occupies his time in the physical world. This astral shell conveys him after his transition. Man, in his rebellion, clings to many of these peculiar and strange notions, contrary to truth. Therefore, it necessitates incarnation, birth after birth, until at last man becomes free from all material superstitions and on the road where he will discard all mental obstructions. Then he'll be weaving together the threads he gathered in the shuttle across the loom of life, for he'll be finishing the pattern of his life's record. The ancient mystical white brotherhood teaches that man on earth should not aspire to rank, station, prestige, or power. All mankind should seek the one great asset, which is humility. Unselfishness and love shall reign supreme without discrimination. When men of earth shall see other men of earth as spiritual beings, there need not never be any fear of the future. Even though man may be in tatters and rags, or perchance clotted in garments of wealth, yellow, black, or brown skin, it is not the outer appearance in which man shall be tested. It is the inner spiritual being, the Christ power working through the physical body, and which would occupy and hold his attention. There are many men and women walking along the highway of life in shabby or ragged attire. They have faces and hands soiled from toil, but their hearts are clean and pure. Conversely, there are those whose bodies are in silks and satins and know not that they are in truth equal with beggars, because their hearts are not clean and pure. Remember and never forget that they are all spiritual beings, children of the living God. Therefore, let there be no discrimination. Ever remember that members of the White Brotherhood are always creators of goodwill, harmony, and long, never strife nor deception. Being advocates of the living, radiant light of divine love, they always encourage the noblest attributes in others, and they frequently strive to inspire man toward perfecting the spiritual growth by applying the understanding he has and appropriating its resulting wisdom in his consciousness. Quite frequently, the question is raised as to the reference of the word white. That reference has nothing to do with the color of the skin or to any race. It does indicate the radiance of the spiritual color of the soul, its aura. It indicates the pureness of the love expressed by the soul's divinity. The divine wears many colored bodies. It is the heart which must be white or pure, and not what we hear referred to as black-hearted or corrupt, no matter what the color of the skin type may be, white or some other color. God is no respecter of persons, and in God there's no separation. Since God is both male and female in principle, and principle is sexless, God expresses the divine nature of both male and female. The council is also part of God, and also makes no discrimination. There are female masters just as there are male-female members, and the female members are sorors. The male masters are referred to as fraters. In the etheric planes of life, all members are recognized as fraters, meaning brothers. For in the realm of pure consciousness of spirit, the recognition is of the spirit, which is sexless. Thus, the recognition is as equals in all attributes. Matthew 22:30. There is a sacred duty the sorors render to motherhood on earth. It is what is frequently referred to as the nature's mothering principle of life. That principle which sustains, nourishes, and lovingly protects. The sorors lovingly grant their service. One of the greater tasks in the evening, watching over the young mothers during the gestation and the final coming forth of the body of the babe. Also, another one of the tasks among the women collaborators is to minister unto the children and youth in the many organizations, the institutions and hospitals of the physical plane of life. They're always there to give aid and assistance. The Master Jesus said, I go to prepare a place for you, that where I am, there you may also be. They have a place prepared. Each one of them they call, and who has chosen to follow the call is precious to the council. There's a path of direction for each one. If it were not so, there would be no calling of man to come up higher to serve in the Father's mansion, the universe. Man cannot serve until there is a necessity for service. As a necessity arises, each one that they have called stands ready to answer the summons. Spread the love of God wherever you can. Whatever you do, do it lovingly. Love is the greatest power of the universe. Thus, many experiences of life appear as what man calls miracles. Love sent forth brought about the seemingly miracles. Love becomes a great magnetic power and draws into itself still greater essence of the presence of God. As the masters of old lived their portion of life serving others as unto God, so continue to help others to behold all life as God's life, and they too shall serve as unto God. Natasha Greenlee.